Chapter 1051. Because he had been hugging her, he didn't notice it immediately. He took a closer look and saw that the girl's cheeks were rosy. It wasn't a normal blush when she was sleeping. He touched her forehead, and it was indeed burning hot. Ningxi had a fever. Lu Tingxiao immediately got up and dialed Qin Mufeng's number. More than an hour later, Qin Mufeng rushed over, dragging a suitcase behind him. "Sir, are you a clairvoyant? I just came back from abroad, and you called me without missing a second." Qin Mufeng had gone overseas to participate in an academic exchange. When Lu Tingxiao called him, he had just gotten off the plane. The moment he turned on his phone, he received a series of urgent calls. However, he was quite happy to be called this time. Ever since he had Ningxi, the two of them had been fine. He felt a little guilty about getting paid for doing nothing. "What's going on? Why are you rushing me so urgently?" Qin Mufeng asked. Lu Tingxiao replied, "Fever?" Qin Mufeng held his forehead. "Sigh. Mr. CEO, fever is a common illness. How many times do I have to explain it to you? I thought your wife was pregnant since you were so anxious." As soon as Qin Mufeng finished speaking, he realized that he was overthinking things. With Lu Tingxiao's personality, the two of them probably hadn't even had sex before. Speaking of which, he was so nervous when his wife was having a fever. How nervous would he be when she was going to give birth? Qin Mufeng thought to himself as he took out the equipment from the suitcase. He did a simple check on Ningxi and took her temperature. "How is she?" Lu Tingxiao asked. Qin Mufeng looked at the thermometer and frowned. "Why is her fever so high? I'll prescribe some medicine for her. Help her lower her body temperature. If her fever doesn't go down by tonight, she'll need a drip and an injection." "Okay, don't leave. Stay here tonight," Lu Tingxiao said expressionlessly. Qin Mufeng's lips twitched. "Yes, President Lu." On the bed, the girl's face was flushed and her breathing quickened. Lu Tingxiao hurriedly helped the girl up and fed her the medicine. Then he quickly found some alcohol to wipe her body and lower her body temperature. After a busy day, the girl's temperature finally stabilized a little in the evening. However, she was still unconscious. The next morning, the sun was shining brightly that day. Through the window, the room was bathed in a warm glow. The crisp chirping of birds could be heard. A few petals were blown into the room from the small garden. The air was filled with the fragrance of flowers and plants. On the bed, the girl's eyebrows were tightly knitted together, and her eyelashes kept trembling. Then, she suddenly opened her eyes, and her forehead was covered with a fine layer of sweat, as if she had just woken up from a nightmare. After opening her eyes, Ningxi's face was a little sluggish. She looked around in confusion. It was a familiar and warm bedroom. There was a bouquet of flowers in the vase at the head of the bed. Outside the window, the curtains were gently swaying in the wind. By the window, under the morning sun, the man was sitting on a chair, holding a book in his hand, but he did not flip through it. Instead, he looked out of the window. Ningxi's pupils finally focused, so she was not in hell, so she was still in the human world. Sensing movement on the bed, Lu Tingxiao immediately got up and walked over. He touched the girl's forehead and said, "You're awake? How long did I sleep?" Ningxi mumbled in a daze. 2 days. So long. Ningxi held her forehead, then looked at the green stubble on the man's chin with some heartache. "Didn't you sleep all this time?" This time, the one who was the most shocked wasn't her, but Lu Tingxiao. She didn't know how Lu Tingxiao found out so quickly that she had been taken away. Could it be that there was a spy, or Feng Jin had deliberately leaked the news? Chapter 1052. I'm fine. I can sleep. How do you feel? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? Lu Tingxiao asked. Ningxi shook her head and then looked up at the man in front of her. Lu Tingxiao, is there something on your mind? In fact, since she came back, she had felt that Lu Tingxiao seemed to have something on his mind. Just now, he seemed to be in a bad state, although he hid it well. Lu Tingxiao was taken aback at first, but then he fell silent. After coming back, although he tried his best to ignore it, the silver-haired man's words kept ringing in his mind. When she was at her lowest, most embarrassed, most desperate and most painful time, I took her in and taught her all the survival skills and means to protect herself. She and I are people from the same world. The world is so big, but in the end, she will still understand where she really belongs, the place that really belongs to her. Although he tried to restrain and convince himself, he still couldn't deceive himself. He was jealous. Jealous of that man. Jealous of him. Jealous of their past. Jealous of the special bond between them. Lu Tingxiao's face became more and more terrible. Although he was in the sun, his whole body seemed to be frozen at a speed visible to the naked eye, layer by layer. Ning Shi, will you leave me? Lu Tingxiao fixed his eyes on the girl in front of him and finally spoke. There was a determination in his eyes, as if he would lose her in the next second. However, what responded to him was the girl's warm and soft body that suddenly fell into his arms. Her warmth enveloped him and melted all the ice and snow around him. Ning Shi had thought that he had a deep grudge against that person and that the sky had fallen. When she heard this, she was speechless. But seeing him like this, she felt sorry for him. So she hugged him tightly and said discontentedly and helplessly, "Why would I leave you? Why do you think I work so hard every day? Isn't it to be with you? Isn't it to make more money? Isn't it to marry you in the future? Isn't it just to stay in your world?" Being with Lu Tingxiao was probably the biggest accident in her life, and also the biggest gamble. From the very beginning, she knew that she shouldn't. But even though she knew that she shouldn't, she still fell for him. Even though she knew that she should distance herself from him, she still approached him step by step. The next second, Ning Shi lifted her weak arms, flipped over, and pressed herself on the man's body. She said fiercely, "Lu Tingxiao, why are you asking this? I'm warning you. It was you who seduced me. It was you who seduced me. It was you who bewitched me. So, if one day you dare to betray me..." Ning Shi fiercely threatened him, but in her heart she smiled bitterly. Even if that day came, she probably wouldn't bear to hurt him at all. Unknowingly, before she realized it, she had already been completely eaten by him. The man gazed at her intently, his pupils reflecting the entire world. "I won't betray my own life." The girl's expression changed. Her eyes were also filled with determination. "I won't either. Lu Tingxiao, I have two lives. One is when I was born, and the other is when I met you." Lu Tingxiao suddenly tightened his arms around the girl. The dense dark clouds above their heads disappeared, and the sky was clear and boundless. Chapter 1053. The two of them snuggled up to each other in the warm, spring sunshine. Although the security measures at your place are good, they can only keep out ordinary thieves and reporters, Lu Tingxiao said thoughtfully. Hearing this, Ning Shi immediately said excitedly, "Oh, I'm planning to move to a new house. I calculated my current savings. It's enough to buy a nice villa. I was about to discuss this with you. Let's go look at a house together?" "Okay." Lu Tingxiao nodded. "I'll keep an eye out for a suitable one. As for the security system, I'll do it myself." "Okay." Ning Shi nodded. Lu Tingxiao thought for a while and still didn't feel reassured. "I'll transfer Tang Lang to your side. You need a bodyguard too." Ning Shi was speechless. Second senior will be my bodyguard? From a security guard to a private bodyguard. Wasn't it getting worse and worse? Although the former was just a security guard, it was still a listed company. Lu Tingxiao said, "He needs money." Ning Shi, okay. She almost forgot that second senior's card was confiscated by eldest senior. He was so short of money that he had to work as a security guard and a teacher. Anyway, he only needed money. "Oh, one more thing. I think I'll need to transfer 2 people from your side." Ning Shi suddenly remembered the weapons and local products at home. "Who?" Lu Tingxiao asked. "Shi Xiao and Xiongji. Are they okay?" Ning Shi asked. "They want to look for you?" Lu Tingxiao looked as if he had expected it. Ning Shi coughed lightly. "Well, I'll be lenient if I get help from others." Lu Tingxiao pondered for a moment. Although he did not intend to use these 2 people again, their strength was indeed not bad. After the last incident, they were considered familiar with Ning Shi. If he looked for other people, they might not necessarily be as diligent as them. Okay. Most importantly, how could he not agree to his wife's request? "Are you hungry?" Lu Tingxiao asked. Ningxi touched her deflated belly and nodded. Yes. I'll go to the kitchen to see if dinner is ready. Yes, yes. Illness came like a landslide, but it was like spinning silk. After sleeping for 2 days, Ningxi's body was still a little weak. She was about to go back to sleep on the pillow when the phone at the bedside suddenly rang. When she went downstairs to buy soy sauce the day before yesterday, she didn't have her phone with her. Lu Tingxiao might have brought it for her. The caller ID showed that it was Lin Jiji. Seeing Lin Jiji's name on the screen, Ningxi's face suddenly changed. It's over. Too many things had happened in the past 2 days, and her illness had made her muddle-headed. She had actually forgotten that today was the day she was supposed to film the variety show. The production crew set off for Shuhe Ancient Town at 8 p.m., and it was already 7 p.m. now. By now, Ningxi was completely awake and quickly answered the call. Hello, Sister Jiji. I'm really sorry. I wasn't feeling well, so I slept for 2 days. I just woke up, so I rushed over immediately. I was just about to inform you that the filming of the show has been delayed, Lin Jiji said. It's delayed? Ningxi was surprised. What's wrong with your body? Sick? Is it serious? Lin Jiji asked with concern. Ningxi had always been professional. If it wasn't a very serious situation, she definitely wouldn't have forgotten that she had to film the show today. It's fine. I just have a slight fever, but I'm much better now. Are you alone at home now? I'll get Xiao Tao to go over and take care of you? Lin Jiji asked. Chapter 1054. No need for that. I'm at my friend's house. He'll take care of me. Ningxi said hurriedly. Well, if anything happens, you must tell me immediately. If it's serious, you must go to the hospital. Lin Jiji urged. Okay. Then have a good rest. I don't know when Baby Meng will start recording. When you recover, I'll temporarily help you change to a gourmet program called Beauty's Private Kitchen. It'll be filmed locally in the capital. It'll only take an afternoon. It's very relaxing. Okay. Thank you, Sister Jiji. After hanging up the phone, Ningxi's tense nerves suddenly relaxed. She lay back on the bed and comfortably rubbed against the soft and fluffy pillow. Although it shouldn't be, suddenly hearing the news that she didn't have to work when she was sick and wanted to stay in bed was actually quite cool. At this time, the door was pushed open with a creak. It was Little Bao who came in. Seeing Little Bao, Ningxi's eyes suddenly lit up. Bao. Before she finished speaking, Little Bao actually slammed the door, and then came the sound of footsteps going downstairs. Ningxi scratched her head in confusion. What's going on, my Bao? Not long after, there was another sound of footsteps going up the stairs. The little fellow pushed the door open again and came in, carefully holding a bowl of porridge in his hand. He walked to her bed, carefully scooped a spoonful of porridge, blew on it, and then brought it to Mama's mouth. It turned out that he went downstairs to bring breakfast for himself. Ningxi was so touched that she almost wanted to hug him and rub him, but she resisted, afraid that she would pass the illness to him. So she said softly, Baby, you're so considerate, but Mama is sick now, and I'm afraid I'll infect you. Let your father feed me, okay? Little Bao steadily held the spoon, his eyes firm. Baby is not afraid of illness. Baby has to take care of Mama. At this time, Lu Tingxiao pushed the door open and came in with some appetizers. He said, Boys aren't so fragile. Let him feed you. Ningxi was also afraid that Little Bao's hands would get sore, so she hurriedly ate the porridge. Oh, my Bao is really delicious. Little Bun stood by the bed, feeding Ningxi porridge. Lu Tingxiao sat by the bed, holding an apple in his hand and slowly peeling it. When Lu Jingli and Jiang Mai came in, they saw the warm and beautiful family of 3. Sister-in-law, are you feeling better? I thought it would be too tacky to give you flowers, so I picked some vegetables from my yard for you. Lu Jingli was really carrying a basket of vegetables in his hand. Jiang Mai, who was holding a bunch of tacky flowers, was speechless. Jiang Mai glanced at Lu Jingli speechlessly. Then he put a bunch of fresh flowers on the table. Looking at Ningxi's pale face, he murmured, I didn't expect that you would get sick. Ningxi was speechless. Humans get sick. Am I not a human? Jiang Mai replied, Sometimes I'm not. Sister-in-law, what's going on? You're as strong as an ox. How did you suddenly become so ill? Lu Jingli asked suspiciously. As strong as an ox, Lu Jingli. He had just come in for a while, and he had already offended 2 people. Ningxi glared at him. Can't I just be a little frightened? Damn. Sister-in-law, you're kidding me. What kind of frightened you so much that you got sick? Lu Jingli obviously didn't believe her. Ningxi ignored him. She would rather maintain her image as strong as an ox than reveal that she was afraid of ghosts. Also, she decided she would go to the next hard drive and watch a horror movie until she was no longer afraid. Chapter 1055. Just as the room was filled with laughter, there was a weak knock on the door. Standing at the door was Lu Xinyan. Ningxi was a little surprised to see her. Noticing Ningxi's gaze, Lu Xinyan seemed to be a little uncomfortable. She coughed lightly and said with a righteous expression, I'm here to see Xiao Bao. I heard that you're sick, so I came to see you. These tonics are also gifts. You can take them. Lu Jingli and Jiang Mai were still surprised to see Lu Xinyan come to see Ningxi, although she said it was just a convenience. They didn't know what had happened on the mountain. They only knew that Lu Xinyan didn't like Ningxi, especially Lu Jingli, who had been caught by Lu Xinyan and talked about many times. Every time, she told him how Ningxi had bewitched his brother, and that Guan Ziyao was the best match for his brother. Obviously, he was Guan Ziyao's die-hard fan and swore to destroy Ningxi's cult, but now, she took the initiative to see Ningxi and even brought her tonics? It was as if the sun had risen from the west. Could it be that little Cici had shamelessly flirted with a girl again? Thank you. Ningxi looked at the things that Lu Xinyan had brought. It was obvious that she had specially chosen them to see her, but she didn't expose it. She just thanked her. Xiaobao, come here, Annie brought you a toy. In order to cover up her embarrassment, Lu Xinyan hurried to find Xiaobao. Ningxi found that Lu Xinyan didn't look very well, so she asked casually, why are your dark circles so heavy? Lu Xinyan immediately touched her eyes subconsciously and muttered with some complaint, it's all your fault. This conversation. Lu Jingli inexplicably felt that his thoughts were going astray. Huh? Ningxi was puzzled. You won't let me pass the agency qualification, so I have to make a new plan. Lu Xinyan took out a small mirror and looked at her face with distress. Ningxi was obviously a little surprised to hear that. She didn't expect that Lu Xinyan still hadn't given up. Although she couldn't bear to hurt her, she didn't want her to continue to do useless work. So Ningxi said, but the quota for our 5 agencies in the capital is full. There were originally 2 more, but they have already signed contracts with others. What? Gone? Both of them are gone? Lu Xinyan was dumbfounded. Yes, they're all gone. Ningxi confirmed the bad news. As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Xinyan's little face froze. A moment later, she exclaimed in disbelief, how could this be? I stayed up for a whole week and sacrificed a whole week of beauty sleep to redo the project. I've never worked so hard in my life. In the end, you're telling me that all my efforts were in vain? Ningxi pinched her brows and looked at the girl in front of her helplessly. Don't you know the situation before you do anything? I didn't know it would be signed so soon. Lu Xinyan's tone was obviously a little guilty. Ningxi, she finally understood why this girl always suffered losses when she did business. Lu Xinyan stared at Ningxi and said anxiously, I don't care. You were the one who said that as long as I could show a serious attitude and sufficient sincerity, the door of Zealing would always be open for me. You can't go back on your word. Besides, I've already called you my sister-in-law. Can't you even make an exception for such a small matter? Chapter 1056. Sister-in-law? Lu Jingli, Jiang Mai. The 2 people who didn't know were shocked again, especially Lu Jingli. This girl actually called Ningxi sister-in-law? When did this happen? How much gossip had he missed? It was so sad. Hearing Lu Xinyan's words, Ningxi blinked and said, oh, then you'd better take back the word, sister-in-law. How can you do this? Lu Xinyan stamped her feet in anger. Ningxi spread out her hands and said, the problem is that it's useless to call me sister-in-law this time. My side has already signed the contract, the goods have all been delivered, and the storefront is being renovated. There's a first come, first served rule. Even if your plan this time is really good, I can't open the back door. Lu Xinyan lowered her head and stood there like a frosted eggplant. Is there really no other way? Ningxi looked at Lu Tingxiao subconsciously. Boss, do you have any idea? Lu Xinyan hurriedly looked at Lu Tingxiao, but her cousin still blamed her for what had happened last time. How could he help her? Since it was his wife who asked, Lu Tingxiao told her everything he knew. A new large comprehensive shopping mall is about to open in the west of the city. We can set up a physical store there. That short sentence instantly solved all the problems. Boss was indeed a great man. Lu Xinyan's eyes lit up. Really? Then I'll contact the people about the store. This time, no one is allowed to compete with me. I was the first one to find it. Ningxi chuckled. Yes, you found it. I'll keep it for you. That's what you said. You have to keep your word. I'm going to settle the store first, Lu Xinyan said, stuffed the bags of toys into Xiaobao's arms, and then ran away like a gust of wind. Behind her, Lu Jingli clicked his tongue. Cici, how on earth did you train her? Xianyan, that lass, has been slacking off all day long. She has a short-lived passion for everything. I've never seen her so concerned about anything before. She's like a different person. Ningxi rolled her eyes at him and said slowly, every girl has her cute side. It just depends on whether she's willing to show it to you. That makes sense. Lu Jingli looked like he had learned something. Oh, by the way, Jiang Mai, Sister Gigi arranged a gourmet program for me. It's called Beauty's Private Kitchen. I didn't pay much attention to it before. Have you heard of it? Ningxi asked. Lin Gigi probably knew that she was good at cooking, so she chose the show for her. In addition, her image was also suitable for the show. Ningxi's motto was not to let go of any opportunity, so no matter what job she did, she had to do her best. A culinary show? Before Jiang Mai could say anything, Lu Jingli's eyes lit up like a light bulb. He blurted out, "What about your props?" "What prop?" Ningxi was confused. "It's the dishes you cooked," Lu Jingli hurriedly explained. Ningxi was speechless. How would I know how to deal with it? I've watched other food shows. If the food is bad, they'll throw it away. If it's okay, they'll probably share it with the staff. As for my program, I don't know the process yet, so I asked Jiang Mai. Chapter 1057. Lu Jingli said righteously, "What do you mean by staff? Do the staff need food from you? Bring it back for me to eat. Besides, this show only has one guest per episode, and it's a permanent guest. How about I help you become a permanent guest? I'll let you go on every episode, as long as you bring the props back for me. It's a good deal, isn't it?" Ningxi, Jiang Mai glanced at Lu Jingli and then interrupted, "Don't even think about it. The show requires the male guests to eat up the dishes cooked by the female guests." Lu Jingli squatted in the corner and began to plant mushrooms. How could there be such an inhumane gourmet show? It's really inhumane. Jiang Mai seemed to recall something, and his face turned green. This show only has one guest per episode, and they are all good-looking beauties. They rely on their looks to pull up the ratings. As for the dishes, haha, they are all worse than the other. Don't ask me how I know that. How do you know that? Ningxi and Lu Jingli asked in unison. Jiang Mai's mouth twitched slightly. He pinched his forehead and said, "In addition to the beautiful female guests, the show also invites a male guest to be her assistant. I was there once." "And then?" Ningxi asked with interest. Jiang Mai showed a painful expression, as if he didn't want to recall the past. "Didn't I just say that the show requires the male guests to eat up the dishes cooked by the female guests? It means that even if the dishes are shit, they have to eat it. At that time, I thought the female guest was pretty and her cooking was just like her, so I agreed to go on the show. But in the end, he was forced to finish the entire plate of that woman's red braised pork, which was almost burnt into charcoal. Moreover, he had to falsely praise her for her cooking for the sake of the program. Since then, I haven't eaten braised pork for a whole year. Do you know how traumatized I am?" Ningxi rolled her eyes. "You deserve it. Obviously, He wanted to hook up with the beautiful women, but he got what he deserved. After that, I talked to a few other male guests who have been on this show and found a pattern. The prettier the girl is, the darker the cuisine. Nowadays, almost no male guests dare to go on this show. Speaking of this, Jiang Mai glanced at Ning Shi and coughed slightly. If you are going to be on this show, I can spare some time from my busy schedule to be a male guest and support you. Lu Jingli was furious. Fuck. Jiang Mai. You treacherous villain. Favoritism. As your boss, I will not allow it. I've decided to do it myself. Lu Tingxiao. The biggest boss expressed that they all thought he was dead. Ning Shi's body was in good condition. After resting at home for a few days, she felt much better. Therefore, taking advantage of the good weather on the weekend, Ning Shi directly took Big Bun and Little Bun to look at houses. However, there was also a third wheel, Tang Lang, who was called a security consultant. In the courtyard, Tang Lang was picking and choosing. What kind of rubbish is this? In this day and age, there are still people who use barbed wire to invade the system. One pull and the entire defense system will collapse. Ning Shi glanced at him. Then what do you want? Of course I want to use infrared. Shoot directly when they touch it. Kill them on the spot. Ning Shi's mouth twitched as she held her forehead. This is China. China is okay. Kill your head. Chapter 1058. Lu Tingxiao pondered for a moment, then muttered, Infrared can be used, but it can be improved. You can refer to the security system of the Louvre. That's awesome. Then the two men began to discuss something she didn't understand. In the end, even the little bun joined the discussion. Use the robot guard you assembled? That's possible. My good disciple is really talented. As expected of my disciple. Tang Lang immediately had an expression of pride. In the evening, the villa was finally chosen. It was a villa located in the suburbs, but not too far from the city. The villa was very approachable and featured a retro Chinese style with soft colors. The surrounding scenery was also not bad. It was equipped with a small garden, swimming pool, and a greenhouse. There was a private butler who could meet all the needs of the residents. The most noteworthy thing was that there was a large peach forest on the mountain not far away. Lu Tingxiao had already planned the security system. After looking at it, Ning Shi quickly signed the purchase contract on the spot and wrote her and Lu Tingxiao's names on the property ownership certificate. Ning Shi happily put the property ownership certificate into Lu Tingxiao's hand like presenting a treasure. Honey, this is the house that I will marry you in the future. Lu Tingxiao's cold face was instantly dyed with a lively smile. And the little bun's eyes lit up. Mama was going to marry Papa? Then wouldn't he be Mama's legitimate son? Tang Lang, haha, he might be blind. He had been blinded by these two for an entire day. Even if he wasn't blind, he was half disabled. At the thought of having to suffer like this every day in the future, he wanted to smash his head against the ground. It was really not easy to earn some money. Damn Tang Yi, return my little Kaka to me. At night, the family of three and Tang Lang had dinner together. Tang Lang didn't know if that girl had found her conscience. After dinner, she actually sent him to the door. Second senior brother, I have something to ask you for help with. Ning Shi stood in front of him with a serious expression. Ask me for help? Tang Yi raised his eyebrows. Ning Shi nodded. It's like this. Second senior brother, do you mind having one more student? Tang Lang was puzzled. One more student? Who? Me. Ning Shi pointed at herself. Did you take the wrong medicine? Tang Lang immediately looked at her as if he had seen a ghost. This girl was usually most afraid of practicing martial arts, but now she actually took the initiative to ask to train with her? Ning Shi, I'll double the tuition fee. Tang Lang asked, Sir, when do we start? Ning Shi chuckled. I'll let you know then. What exactly provoked you? Tang Lang looked at her suspiciously. Ning Shi looked serious. A few days ago, Feng Jin asked someone to invite me over. Hearing this, Tang Lang's expression changed slightly. It's faster than I thought. And then? What does he want to do? Seeing that Ning Shi was fine, Lu Tingxiao must have arrived in time. Ning Shi sneered, Oh, maybe he wants to kill me. Anyway, no matter what he wants to do, I've thought it through. I can't let Lu Tingxiao protect me all the time. I don't want him to worry about me. Most importantly, I can't become his weakness. Tang Lang. They were talking nicely, but they were stuffed with dog food again. Couldn't they have a pleasant chat? He'd better find Tang Yi for a duel and get his bank card back. Chapter 1059. A few days later. After finishing the house and making sure that her body was fine, Ningxi called Lin Jiji and decided to go to the TV station to record the program tomorrow afternoon. After learning that she was going to record this episode, Jiang Mai was going to be the male guest, but Lu Jingli used his privilege as the boss to stop him. If I can't eat it, you can't eat it either. In the end, the male guest of this episode was still the one that the program team had originally planned. He was a third-rate male star who was not very famous, looked a little lucky, chubby, and often played some funny supporting roles. When the program Beauty's Private Kitchen first aired, it was very popular. Although most of the dishes cooked by female stars were terrible, it was still a hot topic. The process of the male guests eating those dark dishes became the biggest joke, and the audience quite liked this kind of program design. However, Beauty's Private Kitchen was, after all, a gourmet program. In order to increase the ratings, the audience gradually got tired of the joke that the more beautiful the female star was, the darker the dishes she cooked. Many extreme audience members even directly criticized the program team for being trash and vulgar, questioning that it was not a gourmet program, but a survival challenge program and a parody program. It was too inhumane to force the male guests to eat those disgusting food in order to increase the ratings. In particular, the fans of the male guests raised the most protests. Among them, the fiercest was undoubtedly Jiang Mai's episode. Jiang Mai's fans almost blew up the tieba of the program team, and the official Weibo was also full of curses. As more and more such voices rose in the end, even the male guests were almost unable to be invited. Later, the program team was forced to make adjustments and invited some female stars who could cook. But the tragedy was that in most cases, it was impossible to have both beauty and cooking skills. There were too few female stars who could cook and were good-looking. Even if there were people who knew how to cook, their standards would definitely not be good. At most, they would be average. For a variety show, if the culinary skills were not good enough, it would be better to have terrible culinary skills. However, if the beauty was sacrificed for delicious food, and the biggest attraction of the program was the beauty, the ratings would be even worse. In the end, there was no other way. The program team came up with a more wicked idea: to find a substitute for the beautiful guest. It meant that they would spend money to hire a chef to cook for them. While they were cooking, they would only take pictures of the chef's hands. At other times, they would take pictures of the beautiful guest, creating the illusion that the beautiful guest was the one cooking. Originally, if this idea had not been discovered, it would have been the best of both worlds. Unfortunately, in the end, it was discovered by the sharp-eyed audience. The ring on the female guest's hand would disappear from time to time. It was simply an insult to the audience's intelligence. At that time, the audience criticized the production team for cheating, and the female guest at that time was also scolded badly. Later on, the production team could only return to the route of relying on looks and pranks to support the viewership ratings. Although they could no longer fool the old audience, they could still fool the new audience. The viewership ratings of a culinary show couldn't be compared to other variety shows, but this show was still the most popular among similar shows. The next afternoon, Ningxi arrived at the recording studio of the TV station on time with her assistant, Xiaotao. Today, Ningxi was wearing Ziling's latest spring-style dress with floral patterns. In order to make cooking easier, her originally loose hair was tied up in a high ponytail. She was full of the spring sunshine and youthful vivacity. Chapter 1060. The director was a kind middle-aged man. His eyes lit up when he saw Ningxi. "Oh, here comes our beauty Ningxi. Quick, everyone, let's get to know each other. This is our female guest for today. Hello, everyone. I'm Ningxi. Nice to meet you." Ningxi greeted them politely and modestly. "You're welcome. Beauty Ningxi deserves her reputation. She's even more beautiful in real life than on TV. I thought ancient clothes were beautiful enough. I didn't expect modern clothes to be even more beautiful." It seems that the ratings of this episode are guaranteed. The staff came to greet them. The entertainment industry was a world where appearance was the most important factor. They had to be more enthusiastic in front of beautiful women, not to mention Ningxi, who was so beautiful that she was on the rise. The only one who wasn't in a good mood was the male guest today. Feng Rue was stunned by Ningxi's beauty at first sight, but then he was frightened. Based on past experience, with such a face, how bad would the dishes he made be? Seeing Feng Rue's expression, a staff member knew what he was thinking and teased him with a smile. Brother Rue, be content. Such a beautiful woman is cooking for you. You can eat 3 bowls of rice just by looking at her. Then can I only eat plain rice later? Feng Rue decided to make a last-ditch struggle. No. After greeting the staff member, Ningxi walked up to Feng Rue. Hello, you must be Senior Feng. Nice to meet you later. Looking at the girl's charming little face, especially her polite tone toward him, Feng Rue's heavy heart instantly felt a lot better, and he was even a little overwhelmed by the favor. Sigh, Miss Ning, you're exaggerating. How can I be considered as a senior? I'm not a mentor, but I won't hold you back. A lukewarm male artist like Feng Rue, who had always acted as a clown, was the most hated and ostracized by female stars in the entertainment industry. Ningxi was such a beauty, and Shangshi Entertainment wanted to promote her in a high-profile way. But she was so polite to him, which really surprised him. If other female celebrities saw that their partner was a male guest like him, they would probably have given him a cold shoulder already. Feng Rue had been prepared to be humiliated, but he didn't expect that Ningxi would be so nice to him. Even if she pretended to be nice, it was rare. After all, there were too many people in the entertainment industry who stepped on the high and flattered the low. In fact, before Ningxi came, the director was also worried. He had invited Feng Rue because he couldn't invite other male guests this time. He had been worried that Ningxi would argue with him, so he had made several preparations to persuade her in advance, but he didn't use them. The directors naturally liked artists like Ningxi who didn't have to do much and was cooperative, so they immediately had a better impression of Ningxi. They thought that if she really couldn't do well later, they could let her do it a few more times. Beauty's Private Kitchen had been on air for more than 2 years, and all the program's procedures and props were very mature. Therefore, everyone made some preparations step by step. After the live audience entered the venue, the filming began very quickly. After the host, Ningxi, Feng, and Feng, Shi, and Feng, Shi. Chapter 1061. Hello everyone. Welcome to our Beauty's Private Restaurant again. Today, our female guest is truly a beauty. She is the beautiful Ming Chang'e in the world, and the innocent and beautiful and are 18 years old. She is our Ningxi. Hello, host, audience and friends in front of the TV. I'm Ningxi. Today, I'm going to show you my signature dish, braised pork. Braised pork. Is it because beauties think alike? Many beauties in our show have cooked this dish. As the host said this, the big screen behind them suddenly lit up. The screen began to replay the process of the previous female guests cooking braised pork. Sure enough, each dish was darker than the other. In Jiang Mai's episode, the scene of Jiang Mai eating meat was specially edited for a long time. The audience burst into laughter. Seeing Jiang Mai's expression as if he was eating shit, Ningxi couldn't help but chuckle. The seniors are all very cute. The host livened up the atmosphere for a while and then said, I wonder what kind of delicacy Ningxi will bring to us today? Well, without further ado, let's invite our great beauty Ningxi to begin. Another beauty, and it was the same uncreative braised pork. The audience at the scene of the show was actually gathered by the director from all over the place. Some of them were even paid extras, so many of them had already been here several times. When they saw such a similar plot, they felt that it was a little boring, and even their performances seemed weak. Fortunately, Ningxi was indeed good-looking. The audience, especially the male audience, cheered up and continued to watch. By the way, Sister Mimi, can I use my own tools? Ningxi looked at the host and asked. Since she was going to do it, she had to do it to the best. So this time, Ningxi specially brought a set of tools that she usually used. The host smiled and said, "Of course." In fact, the host was a little worried about Ning Shi. Previously, some female guests had made similar requests, but the dishes they cooked were still a mess. Some tried to show off their knife skills, but their hands were cut and cried on the spot. In the end, they were scolded by the audience for being nosy and pretentious. After Xiao Dao helped Ning Shi bring her own tools, Ning Shi began to cook. First, he nimbly put on the apron, then checked all the utensils, and began to choose the spices and ingredients. Is there anything I can help you with?" Feng Rue asked. Ning Shi smiled. "Senior, can you help me wash the radish?" The girl's smile was friendly and warm, and Feng Rue's face could not help but heat up. He hurriedly said, "Oh, okay." "Ning Shi, what's a carrot for?" "Do we need carrots in the red braised meat?" asked the host. "I'm afraid that Senior will get tired of eating only the red braised meat later. Slicing the white radish and soaking it in salt water will be more refreshing." Ning Shi explained. "I see." The host thought to himself, "That's not the point. As long as the poison doesn't kill our male guests, we'll be thankful. Wash? It's done." Feng Rue took the radish that was washed. "Thank you." Ning Shi took the radish, chose a rectangular knife, and began to slice it. Chapter 1062. Beep, 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 beep. The sound of the kitchen knife cutting on the chopping board was endless. In less than 5 seconds, a radish was cut. The onlookers only saw a whole radish on the chopping board. Ning Shi gently piled it up, only to find that the radish had been cut into countless thin pieces. The host and Feng Rue, who were closest to her, were the most surprised, and the director was also confused. This knife skill. Did our program finally have a capable person? Wang, did you film it just now? The director turned to the cameraman eagerly and asked. The cameraman looked innocent. The camera was on the female guest's face. "I didn't have time to turn the lens, and she had finished. You didn't get such a wonderful and important scene. Where's your professionalism?" The director couldn't help shouting, "Come on." It only took her about 3 or 5 seconds to cut a radish. "I didn't even have time to cut the lens." The director glared at the cameraman and then ran to communicate with Ning Shi. "Ning Shi, I didn't expect you to have such knife skills. We are going to give you a close-up. You cut too fast just now, and the cameraman didn't have time to adjust the angle. Can you cut another one?" No, 2 more. We want to shoot a close-up and a long-distance shot. You know, the audience is so difficult to please. The long-distance shot is to prevent them from saying that we are looking for a substitute." Okay. Ning Shi cooperated. So, Ning Shi cut 2 more radishes. This time, even the audience saw it clearly. They all stared at it and talked about it. The host deliberately picked up a radish and walked to the cameraman to give it a close-up. It was indeed as thin as a cicada's wing. "I'm afraid it can't be cut without 7 or 8 years of practice, right?" Then, Ning Shi began to make braised pork. Old soy sauce, light soy sauce, cooking wine, rock sugar, star anise, ginger, spring onion, pepper, fragrant leaves. In less than 3 minutes, Ning Shi prepared all the ingredients and put them aside neatly. Then, she picked up a piece of pork belly with the skin, poured cold water into the pot, added star anise, ginger, fragrant leaves, and pepper, and began to cook it over high heat. After the water boiled, Ning Shi fished out the meat, carefully scraped the dirt and hair on the surface with a knife, and then evenly cut it into a 3-centimeter square. His movements were as smooth as flowing water, without the slightest stumbling. "Ning Shi, I saw you brought this grass. What's it for?" "It's commonly known as malin, also known as malin. It's often used by the people to tie zongzi and various cooked meats. Using it to tie red braised pork won't loosen up." "What's so special about this clay pot?" "Actually, you can use other electronic pots instead, but I feel that although using a clay pot might take a little longer, it will be more delicious." Ning Shi looked very serious when she was cooking, as if she was completing a very important work of art. After asking a few questions, the host didn't dare to disturb her. From the beginning to the end, Ning Shi did not deliberately show off her skills. She was just cooking seriously, but people could not take their eyes off her unconsciously. It turned out that without any pranks or boring interactions between male and female guests, just watching someone cook could be so interesting. It could even be said to be a kind of enjoyment. This was a special charm that belonged to the professional field. Finally, a pot of braised pork was ready. The exciting moment had arrived. Chapter 1063. The moment Ningxi lifted the lid of the casserole with heat-resistant gloves, the entire studio was filled with a fragrant aroma. The red braised pork had an alluring luster. The host swallowed hard and said, "Now, let's invite our male guests to have a taste of Beauty Ning's cooking. You have to eat it all." Previously, there had been situations where the food looked good but tasted terrible. Therefore, no one dared to take it lightly until they tasted it. Feng Rue had made full preparations before going on the show in case he vomited. He hadn't even drunk a sip of water before coming here, so he was famished. Therefore, when he saw the appearance of the dish, he couldn't help but salivate even though he was still vigilant. Feng Rue sat at the small dining table and, under everyone's nervous gaze, carefully picked up a piece of red braised pork and took a bite. Then a second bite, a third bite, a second piece, a third piece. Rice? Feng Rue took a moment to say, "Oh, oh." The host hurriedly handed him a bowl of rice. Then, Feng Rue almost forgot that he was still in the studio. He ate one mouthful of meat, one mouthful of rice, and when he was tired of it, he added a few crispy and refreshing carrots. He didn't even lift his head. Feng Rue finished the whole pot of white rice with a plate of red braised pork and a plate of white carrots. The host, the staff, and the audience all stared at him intently as he finished eating. It wasn't until Feng Rue finished the last bit of gravy in the braised pork with rice balls that everyone came to their senses. Everyone's first reaction was, "Fuck, you should have at least left a piece for us." In the end, there wasn't even a piece of carrots left, let alone meat. Feng Rue seemed to be in disbelief that he had finished eating just like that. He scratched his head in embarrassment and said, I'm sorry, everyone. Ningxi's cooking is so delicious. I've never eaten such delicious red braised pork before. Oh, and that carrot, it's delicious too. I don't know how to describe it, but it's so delicious. In the past, I've seen a saying that true delicacies can make people forget everything. I probably felt it just now, and I really almost forgot that I was still recording a show. The host burst into tears. It's useless even if you say anything now. There's nothing left. We can't sense anything. Finally, after the show, Ningxi made another plate with the remaining ingredients and distributed it to the staff and the audience. The director cried bitterly. He really wanted to make Ningxi a regular guest, so that he could eat her every day in the future. As for the cameraman, he used his last shred of rationality to record this scene. For this episode of Beauty's Private Kitchen, the director made an exception and used an extremely strange editing method. The program lasted 40 minutes. Ningxi cooked for half an hour, and Feng Rue ate for 10 minutes. Yes, for a full 10 minutes, there was no interaction at all. It was purely a scene of him eating. As a result, when the program was broadcasted on the weekend, the ratings actually surpassed Jiang Mai's episode and broke the highest record ever since the program was broadcasted. The number of views of the online video exceeded 10 million in just one day, especially during the late night hours, where the number of views increased the fastest. At the same time, this episode's video quickly occupied Weibo's trending searches and headlines, and its popularity continued to skyrocket. Chapter 1064. The most beautiful female guest in the history of Beauty's private home cuisine. The nation's wife Ningxi, only you and food can't be let down. The official Weibo of the production team also exploded. Both old and new audiences were bombarded. The most surprising thing was that there was actually a large group of mother fans' frowny face. I actually stared at a man eating in the middle of the night without fast-forwarding for a whole 10 minutes. This episode is toxic. Toxic in the middle of the night. Director, come out and I promise I won't beat you to death. The male guest of this episode is so cute. He's different from those coquettish bitches outside, begging for the female guest to wear the same dress. It's so beautiful. I can eat 3 bowls of rice just by looking at the goddess's face. I can even eat shit looking at the goddess's face. She's beautiful, has a good figure, and cooks so well. Goddess, marry me. Daughter, do you need a mother-in-law? I have a son. He's obedient and went to college. He pays all his salary. Ningxi was happily scrolling through the comments online, but Lu Tingxiao was naturally not so happy. What national's wife? She's clearly my wife. Ningxi sensed the devil's mood and hurriedly went over to comfort him. Hee, darling, don't be sad. The director said that because I performed very well, he wants to invite me again. I've thought about it. Next time, I'll wait for our movie to be released. Then I'll talk to the director and go dressed as a man. Then I'll bring you along. Oh, it's Kamingyu. How about it? Isn't it perfect? Lu Tingxiao glanced at the girl. Yes, thank you for your guidance, senior. Ha ha, good boy. Ningxi suddenly laughed. She inexplicably felt like she had slept with Lu Tingxiao. It was so cool. Just then, her phone rang, indicating that there was a new text message from an unknown number. Brat, tomorrow at 3 p.m., prepare to dress as a woman and die. The arrogant tone and the dozens of angry exclamation marks behind it. Needless to say, it was Zhuang Rongguang. After so many days, Ningxi had almost forgotten about it. It was hard for Zhuang Rongguang, who was always slacking off, to still remember it until now. It seemed that she had made him hate her pretty well. As she was thinking, her phone rang again. It was Zhuang Kuer who called. Ningxi immediately answered. Hello, Kuer? Stausi, did Rongguang send you a message and ask you to meet tomorrow? Zhuang Kuer asked. Yeah, I just got it. He asked me to meet at 3 p.m. tomorrow. Zhuang Kuer chuckled. Ever since my brother lost to you at the shooting range that day, he has been practicing at the shooting range without rest. Apart from eating and sleeping, he has been shooting all the time. He has even taken the initiative to ask our father for some shooting techniques. My brother and my dad have always had a bad relationship, especially when it comes to anything related to shooting. This is the first time they have peacefully discussed this kind of thing. These days, the atmosphere at home is much better, and Grandpa is also very happy. Cici, thank you so much. Hearing Zhuang Kuer's words, Ningxi was sincerely happy. Don't mention it. I just can't bear to see others bully my friend, even your brother. On the other end of the phone, Zhuang Kuer was moved. Then, see you tomorrow. By the way, come to my house for dinner tomorrow night. My grandpa likes you very much. He asked me to invite you and take you to our house often. If you don't mind, you must come. Chapter 1065. Of course not. I'm just sorry for bothering you. It's no trouble at all. If you come, my whole family will welcome you. That's a deal. Zhuang Kuer directly ignored her brother. Okay, see you tomorrow. After hanging up, Ningxi was in a good mood. She hummed a song and began to look for clothes in the closet. Are you in a good mood? Lu Tingxiao couldn't help asking, seeing that she was so happy after a phone call with Zhuang Kuer. Ha 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 ha. Lu Tingxiao, let me tell you something very interesting. Ningxi beamed with joy and told him how she had beaten Zhuang Rongguang repeatedly before. I was dressed as a man, so he always thought I was a man. Finally, I told him that if he could do it, I would wear a pink princess dress and run 3 laps around the shooting range. In order to humiliate me, he started to practice shooting as if he was on steroids. Just now on the phone, Kuer was telling me that the brat was practicing so hard that he forgot to eat and sleep that he's almost going crazy. Speaking of which, I suddenly want him to win this time. I'm really looking forward to his reaction when he finds out that I'm a woman. Ha 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 ha. Looking at the girl's smile, Lu Tingxiao's dissatisfaction with Zhuang Liaoyuan lessened a lot. Did Zhuang Liaoyuan mention that to you again? Don't worry, he didn't mention it again. And I think Zhuang Rongguang is very talented. If he can change one day, Chief Zhuang will definitely give up on me. When will he come back tomorrow? Probably after dinner. I've already made an appointment with Kuer. Okay. Ningxi noticed that Lu Tingxiao kept staring at her while talking. She couldn't help touching her face. Is there something on my face? Why are you staring at me? Lu Tingxiao stared at the girl's smiling eyes, leaned over and kissed her lips. You're beautiful. Ningxi immediately covered her face shyly. Beautiful? Oh my God. The devil was getting better and better at flirting recently. He said she looked cute when she was eating. He said she looked cute when she was sleeping. He even said she was beautiful when they were talking. Ningxi, I hope you can be so happy every day when we are together. Don't worry. I'm happy every day when I'm with you. The next afternoon, Ningxi changed into men's clothes and arrived at the shooting range 10 minutes earlier. In the end, Zhuang Rongguang had arrived earlier than her. In other words, that kid had probably never left the shooting range. At this moment, Zhuang Rongguang was standing with his back to her with his hands clasped behind his back. Against the light, he had a heroic look as if he was determined to succeed or die trying. Ningxi touched her nose and couldn't help curling up the corners of her mouth. Brother Shi, you're here. Zhuang Ku-er had also arrived early. When she saw Ningxi, she immediately greeted him happily. You're here. Zhuang Rongguang turned around and looked at the newcomer with a cold expression. After not seeing him for a while, Zhuang Rongguang had lost some weight, but he didn't look tired or haggard at all. Instead, his eyes were astonishingly bright, which made her see Zhuang Luo's shadow. This kind of high-intensity shooting training could really sharpen a person. It seemed that this period of time still had some effect on him, even if the effect was only temporary. This time, Zhuang Rongguang had only done it because of a moment of anger. With Zhuang Rongguang's temperament, there was still a long way to go for him to change completely. Chapter 1066. Did you bring it? Zhuang Rongguang asked. Ningxi waved the pink plastic bag in her hand. Do you want to check it? Zhuang Rongguang glanced at her as if he didn't believe her, so he picked up the bag and checked it himself. A pair of white high heels, a pink princess dress with lace trimmings, a flower on her head, and a pair of white heart-shaped stockings. At the bottom, there was actually a pink bra. Zhuang Rongguang's face suddenly turned red, and he hastily shoved the bag back into Ningxi's hands. You pervert! Ningxi looked innocent. Didn't you ask me to wear women's clothes? Is there a woman who doesn't wear a bra? Zhuang Rongguang's face turned even redder, and he glared at her angrily. He then took a deep breath, trying not to be affected by this treacherous person. You being so sensible is exactly what I wanted. As they spoke, there were already many onlookers. Many of them were people who had come to watch the last time. Even Zhuang Liaoyuan and Zhuang Zhongren deliberately made time to come. Zhuang Rongguang looked at his father and grandfather, his expression a little tense, but he quickly regained his confidence. Seems like there are enough witnesses. Ningxi smiled and made an inviting gesture. Then, please. Zhuang Rongguang snorted and stared at her. Remember your promise if you're a man. If I can shoot 10 shots blindfolded, you have to. Got it? Got it. I have to wear women's clothes and walk around the field 3 times. So long-winded. There are so many people here. How can I blame you? Are you going to fight or not? Ningxi waved her hand impatiently. Hearing Ningxi's words, many people at the scene cheered excitedly. Oh. Wear women's clothes. Wear women's clothes. Wear women's clothes. Go Photon. Yeah, Photon, you have to win. Let's see if he can still be so arrogant. Ha ha ha. I really want to see this guy's embarrassing look in women's clothes. Go Photon. You can do it. During this time, Zhuang Rongguang had been staying in the shooting range and had become familiar with the regulars. In addition, everyone had heard Zhuang Rongguang exaggerate how Ningxi had shamelessly seduced his sister, so now they were all cheering for him. Zhuang Ku-er was the goddess of all these men. She was actually seduced by this stinking brat who came out of nowhere. It was simply intolerable. The surrounding cheers encouraged Zhuang Rongguang even more, and a sense of duty to enforce justice on behalf of the heavens arose in his chest. Finally, he picked up a long black cloth and wrapped it around his eyes a few times. Then, he raised the gun and accurately aimed at the target based on his intuition. The scoring began. At the scene, all the onlookers, including Zhuang Liaoyuan and Zhuang Zhongren, were holding their breath. The next second, Zhuang Rongguang pulled the trigger. Bang! 10th ring. Bang. Another 10 rings. Bang. 3 consecutive 10 rings. As Zhuang Rongguang fired shot after shot, everyone became more and more excited. Finally, 8th spear thrust. 10th ring. The 9th spear thrust. 10th ring. The 10th spear thrust. Zhuang Rongguang paused and took a deep breath. Then, a bang sound. 10th spear thrust. 10th ring. With a ding sound, the scoring machine began to calculate the total score. On the screen was a bright red 10th ring. A total of 100 points. Chapter 1067. Oh, 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 oh. After half a second of silence, there was a sudden burst of cheers that almost broke the roof. Many of them had seen how hard Zhuang Rongguang trained these days, so when they saw him win, they were actually as happy as if they had won themselves. Whether they were new friends or old friends, they all surrounded the young man, patting his shoulder and rubbing his head. Good boy. You're really something. Blindfold 10 spears 10 rings. And it's only been a few days of training. That's amazing. Ha ha ha. Photon. I knew you could do it. That brat who seduced your sister is going to be sullen now. You brat, I really underestimated you. Turns out you've been hiding your strength. Zhuang Rongguang looked at the praises coming from the people around him, some familiar, some unfamiliar, and some unfamiliar. There was a strange, warm feeling in his chest, giving him a feeling that he had never felt before, that kind of enthusiasm, excitement, pride, and a feeling that his whole body was filled with strength. Seeing the gratification in his father and grandfather's eyes, his eyes even turned a little sour. This was really strange. How could he have such a sentimental feeling? He was clearly afraid of hardship and tiredness, and hated shooting the most. Really, hated it. Hey, brat, Photon did it, you lost. It's time for you to fulfill your promise. That's right. Hurry up and change your clothes. Let everyone take a look. You have to go around the field 3 times. Ha ha ha. If Miss Zhuang saw this brat in women's clothing, she would definitely despise him to death. Yes. Zhuang Rongguang only came back to his senses when he heard the crowd's urging. He immediately glowed and ran in front of Ningxi excitedly. Brat, I've said it before, I just didn't want to be serious with you. But when I get serious, even I'm afraid. How about it? You're not going to renege on the bet, are you? Master Guang is really good. I'm willing to accept my loss. Where's the changing room? Ningxi asked. Someone in the crowd immediately answered, it's just opposite. You can just pick an empty room and go into change. If you're a man, you have to accept your loss. All of us are watching. Don't even think about running away. Ha ha ha. This brat is so handsome. He must look like a sissy in women's clothing. Ningxi carried the clothes and walked unhurriedly towards an empty changing room. Zhuang Rongguang felt that he had finally vented his anger. He snorted and looked at Zhuang Kuer, who was beside him, and said, Sister, now you can finally give up on that guy. How can that kid be compared to your brother? The worst part was that he was despicable and shameless. But until now, I still don't understand. Just how did I become enemies with this kid? Zhuang Kuer was trying her best not to break the barrier, so she didn't say a word. Zhuang Rongguang saw that she did not speak and thought that she was disappointed in the boy, so he became more excited and took out his phone to record. He was going to record this brat's dark history later, so that he wouldn't go back on his word and pester his sister again. A moment later, with a click, the door of the fitting room that Ningxi had just entered was suddenly pushed open from the inside. Instantly, everyone's eyes were filled with excitement as they looked towards the direction of the fitting room. They were ready to watch a good show. Chapter 1068. The next second, the phone in Zhuang Rongguang's hand fell to the ground with a loud bang. The black screen cracked into pieces, just like its owner's face. As if time had suddenly stopped, everyone stood there in a daze. In the huge shooting range, it was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. He saw that the girl was wearing a pink princess dress that fitted her body. Her waist was slender, and her long, curly black hair was like a waterfall that outlined a soft curve around her waist. Her delicate face was as beautiful as the mountain flowers, and her eyes were as bright as the stars, as if the flowers of spring were in full bloom. Beauty. And it was a super beauty. Ouch, you stepped on my foot. Who pinched me? If you want to pinch me, go and do it yourself. Don't push me. Don't push me. The silence finally ended, and there was a burst of sporadic commotion in the crowd. Everyone was pushing and shoving, but their eyes never left Ningxi's body. Most of the people who came to the shooting range were old men. All of them wanted to embarrass Ningxi to death, but now they didn't mention it, and their eyes were almost glued to her body. What the hell? What's going on? Is this the same person? I've been staring at her. There's no way she could be swapped. Why do I feel that her breasts are so real? A bunch of idiots. You little brats who haven't even tasted meat know nothing. With my experience and eyesight, she's a genuine woman. All right? And she's a stunning beauty. This kid, Apui, this little girl was obviously a woman dressed as a man. What the hell? Is this for real? A woman dressed as a man? While the crowd was talking, Ningxi had already walked towards the crowd. Finally, Ningxi stopped in front of the dumbfounded Zhuang Rongguang and asked with a smile, Master Guang, are you satisfied with what you see? Zhuang Rongguang nodded blankly, and a second later, he shook his head hard, his fingers trembling as he stared at her in disbelief. You're a woman? Ningxi smiled lightly. Yes. This guy actually dared to admit it in such a nonchalant manner. Wasn't he not afraid of being beaten to death? Zhuang Rongguang felt a mouthful of blood stuck in his throat. He felt like he had suffered an internal injury. You're a woman. You are a woman. Then why did you say that you were dressed as a girl and walked around the arena 3 times? Fuck. At this very moment, Zhuang Rongguang finally realized that he had been played. However, what was even more tragic was that it would be fine if he was facing that stinky brat. But it just had to be a great beauty, causing him to be unable to get angry. He had finally won with great difficulty, but he felt even more aggrieved. No, how could he win? His opponent was a woman. A woman was so good at shooting, and he was a man. Even if he won, how could he be so smug? Zhuang Rongguang felt that he was about to go berserk from being abused. Wow, Stousie, I've never seen you wear this before. You look so cute. It suits you so well. Zhuang Ke took Ningxi's hand and circled her excitedly. Zhuang Ke-er's reaction was undoubtedly a stab in Zhuang Rongguang's heart. Zhuang Rongguang was even more confused. Sister, you already knew? Zhuang Ke nodded. I know. Then why didn't you tell me? Zhuang Rongguang roared from the depths of his soul. You didn't ask me. White Crack recommends a very good and popular article, Yi Bei's The Unparalleled Alchemist, Hedonistic Miss Geo. If you like to read about strong female fantasy, you can check it out. Chapter 1069. Not far away, Zhuang Zongren was just watching the group of young people with a smile, but when he saw Ningxi come out in that dress, his eyes instantly turned red and he murmured incredulously, "Ah-ci." Zhuang Liaoyuan couldn't help but be surprised when he saw his father's excited reaction. "Ah-ci? Wasn't that his mother's nickname? That child really looks like Ah-ci when she was young." Zhuang Zongren murmured tremblingly, and his eyes were full of deep longing and love for his late wife. When Zhuang Zongren first met Ningxi, she wanted to talk about business. Her makeup and clothes were very smart and capable, so he didn't notice it at that time. But today, Ningxi didn't put on any makeup and was wearing a pink princess dress, which made Zhuang Zongren find that she really looked like his beloved wife, Ah-ci, when he first met her. He didn't expect that Lingyu and Ku-er didn't look like Ah-ci, but his granddaughter, Ningxi, looked so much like her. Zhuang Liaoyuan looked at Ningxi's direction and tried to recall his mother, but because his mother died early, he almost had no impression of her. but he vaguely remembered a photo of his mother standing beside his father in a princess dress, smiling like a flower. His mother's temperament in that photo was indeed very similar to Ning Shi's at this moment. At night, in the manor, Zhuang Zhongren asked the servants to prepare a table full of delicious dishes. Before, Zhuang Zhongren's attitude towards Ning Shi was polite and grateful, but now he was kind and enthusiastic. At the dinner table, the old man kept putting food into Ning Shi's bowl. "Xiaoxi, eat more. Eat more." "Thank you, old sir." Ning Shi was a little flattered by the old man's overly enthusiastic attitude. Zhuang Rongguang, who was eating a chicken drumstick, suddenly felt that something was wrong. Then he stared at Ning Shi. After a while, he suddenly stood up and stared at Ning Shi excitedly. "Oh my God, I remember. You're the woman who tripped me when I was running away at home that day." Zhuang Zhongren looked displeased when he heard that. "Why are you making a fuss? Sit down. Also, don't call her this woman or that woman. Xiaoxi is older than you. You should call her sister." Zhuang Rongguang looked as if he had seen a ghost. "Am I crazy? I called her sister. I say, sister, what kind of grudge do you have against me? Why have you been torturing me the moment we met?" As soon as he finished speaking, Zhuang Liaoyuan, who was at the side, coldly glanced at his son with a displeased expression and reprimanded, "Impudent." Zhuang Rongguang looked at his grandfather, then at his father, and suddenly howled. "Why are all of you speaking up for her? Did we get the wrong baby back then? She's your biological daughter." Zhuang Zhongren glared at his grandson with a stern face. "I hope it was a mistake. Unfortunately, there isn't one." Zhuang Rongguang, who was mercilessly despised, immediately burst into tears. "Xiaoxi, how's your work? Are you busy? Are you tired?" Zhuang Zhongren ignored his grandson and looked at Ning Shi with concern. Feeling the sincere concern in the old man's tone, Ning Shi hurriedly said, "It's going well. I'm not tired. I like my current job very much." "Oh, that's good. I heard from Kuer that you also opened a clothing company. Don't tire yourself out." "Yes, I know," Ning Shi hurriedly responded. Chapter 1070. Zhuang Zhongren thought about it and asked, "Where do you live now? Is it the dormitory arranged by the company?" "I used to live in an apartment arranged by the company, but I'm going to move soon. The company has been making a lot of money recently, and I just bought a house," Ning Shi answered. Zhuang Zhongren was pleased to hear that. "You're so young and self-reliant. That's good." With that, he looked at his good-for-nothing grandson with disdain. Zhuang Rongguang, he had been eating in silence. Why did he have to be blamed? This woman was born to punish him, right? "How are you getting along with little Lu? He didn't bully you, did he? Kuer said he had an affair last time. What happened?" Zhuang Zhongren finally asked the question he was most concerned about. Ning Shi coughed lightly and said hurriedly, "Sir, we're fine. What happened last time was a misunderstanding. I've explained it." That's good, Zhuang Zhongren murmured. His face became serious as he thought of something. Xiaoxi was an adopted daughter of the Ning family from the countryside. With Lu Tingxiao's family background, Lu Chongshan and Yin Rui wouldn't agree so easily. Back then, he had sworn not to interfere in Ling Yu's affairs. Ning Shi was her daughter, and her relationship with the Ning family was so complicated. But a man's heart was made of flesh. Looking at his granddaughter, such a good girl, who looked so much like Ci, he couldn't bear to ignore her. During the meal, Zhuang Kuer vaguely noticed that her grandfather and father seemed to treat Ning Shi strangely, but she couldn't tell what was wrong. In the end, she could only attribute it to the fact that Xiaoxi had saved her grandfather's life, so her grandfather and father were so grateful to her. The new villa Ning Shi bought had a nice name, Peach Blossom Cove. After the security system was set up, Ning Shi told Lin Jiji that she was going to move and picked a day to move. As long as Ning Shi was still a member of the company, the apartment at Pearl River Regency would always be hers. So many things that were inconvenient to take away were left there. The moving company was efficient and orderly, and the things were soon moved downstairs. While moving things, Ning Shi accidentally discovered a troublesome thing. A huge diamond. This thing was given to her by Yunshin on the first day of filming, Under the Heavens. Later on, she had been looking for an opportunity to return it to him, but there had never been a suitable opportunity. Ningxi closed the lid and looked around. She didn't think she had missed anything, so she went downstairs. "Beauty, is there anything else?" the movers asked. "Let's go. There's nothing left." "All right." Ningxi was about to get on the car and leave when she was suddenly stopped by someone. Ningxi. Ningxi subconsciously turned her head and saw Ning Yaohua, whom she hadn't seen for a long time. "Chairman Ning called me?" "What director, Ning?" "I am your father." Ning Yaohua looked displeased. His gaze swept over the large truck behind her. "What are you doing? Move? Is there a problem?" "That's great. You can move back home. I came here to talk to you about this," Ning Yaohua said. Chapter 1071. Ningxi raised her eyebrows. "Move home? Oh, Chairman Ning, are you drunk today?" Hearing Ningxi's sarcastic tone, Ning Yaohua didn't fly into a rage. Instead, he said gently, "Ningxi, you are my daughter after all. I will take care of you no matter what. You are a girl. It's not good for you to stay outside all the time. Why don't you move back home? Our house is big and your original room is always there." Hearing this, Ningxi almost laughed out loud. Her original room, it was only 1/3 the size of Ning Shuelua's room, and it was converted from a servant's room. The reason was that they were afraid that she would dirty other rooms, so they asked her to learn etiquette before moving her to another room. Later. There was no later. Ningxi looked thoughtfully at Ning Yaohua, who was full of eagerness. There was only one reason for Ning Yaohua's sudden change in attitude. Grandpa was going to make a will. After he came back from the hospital last time, Grandpa had the intention to make a will. Did he want the shares in her hands? Although she didn't want the Ning family's things, since it was given to her by Grandpa, she couldn't hand it over to Ning Yaohua. "Ningxi, Ningxi, did you hear what Dad said? Look, I happen to be here today. I happen to see you moving. Why don't you just move back?" Ning Yaohua said. Ningxi crossed her arms, glanced at the truck, and sneered. "Are you sure that the room in the house can hold my things?" Ning Yaohua's face stiffened. "Although there are many rooms in the house, they are all useful. And it's not good to let you live in the guest room. You can put these things in the warehouse for the time being if you don't need them." Ningxi looked at the man with a faint smile and said slowly, "Let me go back? Okay, let me live in the room that belongs to me." Ning Yaohua's face suddenly changed. "Ningxi, what do you mean? Are you going to take Shueluo's room? Shueluo has lived there since she was a child. How can it be her room?" Compared with Ningxi, Ning Yaohua was naturally on Ning Shueluo's side. Ningxi lost interest after playing for a while. She didn't want to talk to Ning Yaohua anymore and turned to leave. "Ningxi, Ningxi, stop. Where are you planning to move to?" Ning Yaohua chased after him and asked. Clearly, he still hadn't given up. "I bought my own house," Ningxi replied casually. Ning Yaohua laughed. "What kind of decent house can you buy with that little money? A single apartment or a 2-bedroom apartment? It's not that I want to criticize you, but it's not as good as home. Why did he have to go out and suffer? You should have quit your job a long time ago." Before Ningxi could speak, the truck driver who had been watching them for a long time couldn't bear it anymore. He poked his head out and said, "Sir, the house your daughter bought is Peach Blossom Cove." After Ningxi got in the car, the driver slammed the door and started the engine. The moving truck sped away. Ning Yaohua ate a mouthful of car exhaust and stood rooted to the ground, unable to regain his senses. Peach Blossom Dock. Could it be that he had misheard? The house Ningxi bought was Peach Blossom Cove? How could it be the Peach Blossom Dock? Peach Blossom Cove was a villa that sold for tens of millions of yuan. It was even in a better location than the Ning family's villa. It was also one of the famous rich areas. How could Ningxi afford a villa there? Especially when he always said that my name is Andrew, not Mantu. Lu Tingxiao looked at the robot and inexplicably felt that there seemed to be another competitor in the family. With the help of Lu Tingxiao, Ningxi soon tidied up her room. Then she stood in front of the bed and looked at her new home with satisfaction. It's almost done. I'll buy some things for you and Xiaobao later. Chapter 1073. Behind her, the man's warm chest gently pressed against her body, his arms gently wrapped around the girl's waist, his head resting on her soft shoulder. Looking at the man holding her like a big dog, Ningxi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What's wrong? The man leaned over and kissed her earlobe. The next second, he lifted her up and put her on the bed. He looked down at her clear eyes. I feel very lucky to have met you. Ningxi reached out and touched his hair. Me too. The man's eyes suddenly darkened. He lowered his head and kissed the girl's lips deeper and deeper. Behind him, the sound of something rolling on the ground could be heard. It was a rather loud noise. What's going on? Ningxi hurriedly pushed Lu Tingxiao up. Then she saw the vegetables and fruits in Lu Jingli's hands spilled on the ground. He covered his eyes with one hand and Xiaobao's eyes with the other. He kept saying, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I came back at the wrong time. Go on, go on, go on. I'll take Xiaobao away now. Ningxi rolled her eyes at him. Go away, my ass. How did you get in? Lu Jingli pulled a long face. Xiaobao knows the password. Oh, right. Xiaobao, my baby. You're out of school. Come here and give me a hug. Ningxi hugged Xiaobao. Xiaobao was suddenly blindfolded by second uncle, and he was dissatisfied. However, after being hugged by Mama, he immediately forgot about everything. Lu Jingli walked up to the obviously dissatisfied man behind him and looked remorseful. Ouch, brother. I'm sorry. Ouch. My future second nephew or niece. I'm sorry. It was all his fault that they couldn't come into this world. Lu Tingxiao, Ningxi, because today was the first day that Ningxi moved into her new house. She invited her friends to join in the fun. After Lu Jingli brought Xiaobao over, Zhuang Ku and Jiang Mai also came. Lu Xinyan was well informed this time. She also came with gifts. She probably wanted to take the opportunity to ask her, the boss, for help. Stoucy, your place is so beautiful. The air was so fresh when I came here, and there is a large peach blossom forest on the mountain. The interior design is also very rustic and fresh. I like it. Zhuang Ku could not help but exclaim. Come over often if you like. Yes, yes. By the way, how's your brother recently? Ningxi asked. At the mention of Zhuang Guangrong, Zhuang Ku had a helpless expression as if she had a headache. He's still the same. He sneaks out to play every day. It's almost time for the college entrance examination. With his results, he'll definitely fail. What did your father say? Ningxi asked. My dad and grandpa discussed letting him enter the army directly. Now is also the best and most suitable age. After he enters the army, they will let him enter a military school. But my brother is not willing. If he doesn't want to, then what does he want? I talked to him in private, and he said, Zhuang Ku didn't know whether to laugh or cry, then said, he said that the world is so big, and he wants to see it. He said that he wants to be an explorer and travel the world. Listening to his tone, he seems quite determined. I'm really afraid that he'll really leave home without saying a word. Ningxi was speechless. This guy should have broken his legs. Let's see if he still dares to act recklessly. Zhuang Rongguang was a teenager who used the name of the Zhuang family to bully others. He had never suffered a setback and lived a comfortable life. Chapter 1074. On the opposite sofa, Lu Xinyan was a little speechless as she watched the two of them talking happily. She turned to Lu Jingli and asked, Didn't Zhuang Ku go on a blind date with my brother? How did she get to know Ningxi? And they seem to be on good terms. Hearing this question, Jiang Mai and Lu Jingli looked at each other, and both of them were speechless. Steamed bun. Go get me some fruit. Ningxi shouted at the robot. Master, my name is Andrew, not steamed bun. Please wait a moment. Andrew was about to get the fruit, but it suddenly got stuck. Then, they saw Xiaobao pick up a stool, push it in front of the robot, and step on it. Finally, he opened a cover on the back of the robot, and his fingers operated on some complicated circuits and a screen inside. After a while, Xiaobao closed the cover. The robot's eyes lit up, and then it turned to Ning Shi. "Dear Master, your most loyal butler, steamed bun, is at your service." "Ha ha ha ha." Ning Shi laughed, and then walked over to rub Xiaobao. "Thank you, steamed bun." She made the stubborn Andrew compromise and become steamed bun. Lu Xinyan was even more confused now. Why did she feel that this scene was actually so heartwarming? There was a lover, a child, a few friends, and a cute pet robot, and her cousin, who had always been cold and emotionless like a robot, was so gentle when he was with Ning Shi. He was like an ordinary man who came home from work and watched his wife and children play. She used to hate Ning Shi for turning her cousin from a god to a common man. But now, because of her cousin's warm expression, she couldn't help feeling a little sad. The next day, in Zailing's studio, "Director Qiao, you were looking for me? Boss, take a look at this." Xiao Weilon handed her a stack of documents. Ning Shi glanced at it. "Lu Xinyan's new plan. She mentioned it to me in private. What do you think, Director Qiao?" "There's nothing special about the plan. Although it's well done, it's obvious that someone has helped her or guided her. No one can predict what will happen in practice. But..." Xiao Weilon paused and then continued. "She actually won the best facade of the new large-scale comprehensive shopping mall in the west of the city. So, I think, perhaps, we can let her try." Ning Shi nodded. "And I can see that she is serious this time. Our brand is so popular now. We can't lose money, right?" "I hope so," Xiao Weilon said helplessly. Actually, this decision of hers was a little risky. But as Ning Shi said, the most important thing was attitude. If Lu Xinyan still had the mentality of playing around like before, even if she got the gate of the West City, she would not let her pass. "Shall I inform her now?" Xiao Weilon asked. "Done." Not long after Xiao Weilon called Lu Xinyan, Ning Shi's cell phone rang. He picked up his phone and saw that it was indeed Lu Xinyan. "Hello?" Chapter 1075. Ning Shi hurriedly put the phone away and picked it up after the scream stopped. "My dear girl, did you call me to show off your lung capacity?" Just now, Director Qiao called me and said that my agent qualification has been approved. I can open Zealing's store now. Ha ha." Lu Xinyan's voice was so loud that even Xiao Weilon heard her. "Congratulations," Ning Shi said with a smile. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the phone, and then Lu Xinyan said awkwardly, "Thank you this time." "Thank me for what?" "Thank you for opening the back door for me. I am a person who can distinguish kindness from hatred. You helped me, so I must thank you," Lu Xinyan said. Ning Shi chuckled. "Thank you, Miss Lu. But you don't have to thank me this time, because I didn't help you. I didn't handle this matter. When Director Qiao discussed it with me just now, she had already made a decision. Does that mean I succeeded with my own strength?" Lu Xinyan's tone was obviously more excited. "You can say that." Ning Shi nodded. There was another scream on the other end of the phone, and then Lu Xinyan coughed slightly. "Thank you for not blocking my review." "You're welcome. Wait and see. I'm definitely the one with the highest turnover among the 6 stores. Oh, I'm looking forward to it." After Ning Shi hung up the phone, Xiao Weilon asked, "Boss, do you know Lu Xinyan?" They seemed to be familiar with each other from their tone. "Know each other?" "Sort of. We had some conflicts before. Later, she thought that I deliberately blocked her review. But now, the misunderstanding should be resolved." Ning Shi explained simply. Xiao Weilon nodded and couldn't help taking another look at the woman in front of her. The more she knew, the more she felt that this woman was like a mystery and seemed to have a lot of secrets. After leaving the studio, Ning Shi took the car key and walked to the garage. As soon as she got in the car, her phone rang. She glanced at the caller ID. It was Tang Lang. Ning Shi answered the phone. "Hello, second senior brother? What do you want?" "Junior sister, I just got a very interesting news. Come to the old place." Tang Lang's excited voice came from the phone. Interesting news? What interesting news? You'll know when you get here. Faster, faster, faster. All right, bring the money for the drinks. I have no money. Your treat. Ningxi was originally prepared to go home, but Tang Lang suddenly came over mysteriously, so she could only turn around and drive to the number 8 bar. Did you bring enough money? Tang Lang anxiously asked when he saw her. Yes, yes. What's the matter? Ningxi asked impatiently. Waiter, give me a bottle of Remy Martin CB cognac. After Moneybag came, Tang Lang immediately shouted like a tycoon. Ningxi slammed her hand on the table. Hey, are you trying to trick me into paying for the drinks? Tang Lang was in the middle of throwing peanuts into his mouth, and when he was slapped by her, all of the peanuts slipped out of his hand and fell onto his face. He immediately put on a mature expression and said, How impudent! How can you speak to your master like that? Ningxi gritted his teeth and put on a fake smile. If China didn't restrict guns, do you think I'd need to beg you? Chapter 1076. Everyone in the organization had their own specialties. Tang Lang was skilled in martial arts. Tang Yi was also skilled in managing money and business. Feng Xiaoxiao was skilled in assassination. Annie was skilled in medical skills. Feng Jin was skilled in strategy. And Ningxi was skilled in shooting. Abroad, as long as she had a gun in her hand, no one would be able to get close to her. However, the situation in China was different. Guns were strictly prohibited. Moreover, she was an actress. If she was caught carrying a gun, it would be a fatal blow to her acting career. Therefore, she could only improve her skills and do things that she was not good at. She was also very frustrated, alright? That's why I told you. In this world, the most powerful and perfect weapon is your own body. Tang Lang had the appearance of an otherworldly expert. Alright, stop being so cocky. Are you done with the suspense? If not, I'm leaving. Seeing that Moneybag was about to leave, Tang Lang hurriedly said, What's the hurry? Haven't you heard that haste makes waste? However, this news isn't considered hot tofu. It's already spread all over the place. Is it related to that side? Ningxi's expression sank. Seeing Ningxi's serious expression, Tang Lang waved his hand and said, Don't worry, this is considered good news. Did you know? Satan ordered everyone not to touch a single hair on your head. His exact words were, If anyone dares to touch a single hair on your head, he'll break all their bones. TSK, 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 TSK. Ningxi was obviously surprised. Are you sure? Are you sure I didn't hear it wrong? Didn't he put a bounty on me to break all my bones? Tang Lang rolled his eyes at her. Now, it's not just the organization. Everyone in the world, including the original sins and other mercenary organizations, no one dares to take on a job that's against you just because Feng Jin shot you that day. Also, do you think that Satan shot Feng Jin's wrist was just an ordinary shot? That shot hit his tendon and Feng Jin's hand was crippled. If it wasn't for Annie, he might not even be able to carry a gun. Ningxi was slightly stunned. She pinched the space between her eyebrows. He's always been like this. He won't allow anyone to go against his orders. Just because of this? Tang Lang suddenly revealed a gossipy expression and immediately laid in front of her. Hey, little junior sister, when you heard what I said just now, don't you feel anything at all? How do you feel? The feeling of being moved. Not only did you leave the organization, but you also dumped him. Not only did you dump him, but you also went to date the boss of the enemy camp. Satan didn't even kill you because of that, and he even told others not to touch a single hair on your head. This is simply true love. Tang Lang exclaimed in an exaggerated tone. Ningxi's mouth twitched. You're thinking too much. Why didn't he say that the guy didn't let anyone touch her because he wanted to kill her with his own hands? Furthermore, what did he mean by she dumped him? After that guy saved her, she made a 4-year pact with him. She would work for him for 4 years and listen to all of his orders during that time as repayment for saving her life. After 4 years, they would not owe each other anything and she could leave at any time. In the end, On the day the contract was due, that fellow actually refused to acknowledge it and directly broke the contract. She was almost angered to death. Ningxi had no choice but to ask him what he wanted. In the end, he actually asked her to be his girlfriend. Chapter 1077. He even said that since he saved her life, she should repay him with her body. As long as she agreed, then they would know each other anything. Ningxi thought to herself, I'll be his girlfriend then. Anyway, he didn't say how long we would be together. She had so many ex-boyfriends, so she didn't mind having one more. Thus, after she agreed, she decisively ran away the next day. This was the reason why she dated Yunshin for a day. Tang Lang didn't notice Ningxi's rich inner world and said, So, at the moment, your safety is definitely not a problem. Then he sighed and said, Now you know why I want to charge you for this drink, right? Because I might lose a portion of my salary if I tell you. Ningxi glanced at him. Don't worry, it's not a small amount. Didn't you say that in this world, the most powerful and reliable weapon is still your own body? So, you should continue to teach me. Who knows if he will go crazy and break my bones one day? Who will I cry to? That's true. As expected, you still need me. Tang Lang nodded repeatedly. However, because your usefulness has decreased and the urgency of my need has decreased, your original double salary has now been reduced to 1. Ningxi smiled. Damn, you profiteer. Believe it or not, I will go to Tang Yi and get my card back. Tang Lang howled. Hee, then go ahead. Who's stopping you? However, don't blame me for not reminding you. The last time I was caught, I saw Eldest Senior. Eldest Senior's hand was full of new scars. He must be giving you devil training again. Just with your training, if you go to Eldest Senior's place, are you going to get your card back or die? TSK. Junior, I think your proposal to reduce my salary is very reasonable. Tang Lang immediately changed his words. Lu Xinyan was an impatient person. As soon as she passed the review, she immediately opened the shop in the west of the city. Not only that, there was a grand opening ceremony on the day of the opening. Several popular celebrities were invited to the shop. Because Lu Xinyan carried the name of the Lu Group, many socialites in the circle took the initiative to come and support. At the same time, outside the Spirit City West shop, Ning Xuelua was accompanied by the marketing manager of History. Boss, it's here. The manager pointed at the eye-catching signboard. There was also a Hister branch in this shopping mall, but its location was nowhere near as good as Zealing's. The agent was a comprehensive clothing agency. Although it was also quite powerful, it was nowhere near as famous as Lu Xinyan's Lu Group. Seeing that Ning Xuelua didn't look good, the manager said, Boss, although that Lu Xinyan is using the Lu Group's name, she's actually just an idiot. She's never done business without making a loss. The businesses that worked with her before were all messed up by her. It's Sei Ling's bad luck that she went to represent her. Ning Xueluo's expression did not change for the better when she heard that. What she cared about was not whether the business was losing money or not, but that Sei Ling could even attract an agent of Lu Xinyan's level. What did this mean? This meant that Sei Ling's fame was gradually approaching that of History. Ning Xuelua looked coldly at the man beside her and said in a low voice, You can't let Sei Ling continue to develop, no matter what you do. Chapter 1078. You can't let Zealing continue to develop, no matter what you do. Understood, boss. Just wait and see. They're still too young to fight with me. The man showed a confident expression. Ning Xuelua looked at the man, and her expression softened. This man was the former marketing director of SF, a famous trader in the industry. He had helped SF defeat countless competitors. She had spent so much money to poach this person, and it was not for nothing. As for her side, she had more important things to do. It had been decided that the old man was going to make a will. In just a few days, the news that Lu Xinyan, the cousin of Lu Group's president, Lu Tingxiao, had opened a store specializing in Zealing spread throughout the circle. Many people came to support it, and the location of the store was really good. In the first few days, the store's turnover was far ahead of others. Seeing that Lu Xinyan was doing well, Ningxi was relieved for the time being. However, the good times did not last long. In Ziling's studio, Ningxi was holding Lu Xinyan's sales during this period of time, lying in front of Qiao Weilan's desk like a dead dog. I was wrong. I was really wrong. In the beginning, the turnover of Lu Xinyan's agency store had skyrocketed, but then it declined rapidly, and the loss was extremely serious. To be honest, under the right circumstances, she actually made such a loss. She's really talented. How did she do it? Ningxi sighed. In fact, Qiao Weilan had more or less expected this situation. She had personally reviewed Lu Xinyan's plan, and there was indeed no problem with the plan. However, business was run by people, and Lu Xinyan was the boss. She had a lot of autonomy. If the specific implementation did not follow the plan would naturally become a piece of paper. Lu Xinyan had made such a loss, but she did not mention it to Ningxi. She still clenched her teeth and persisted. However, the financial records could not be falsified. People like Qiao Weilan could see the problem at a glance. So when he found out, he immediately called Ningxi over to discuss it. I've also investigated it before. According to that lady's practice, no amount of money is enough for her to lose. Because she has no business philosophy, Qiao Weilan analyzed lightly, it's not that she can't distinguish the supply in the peak season. The main thing is that she is eager to make achievements. Clothing discount activities are held almost every week. Although the scene is good and it also attracts many potential customers, after a long time, luxury brands become cheap brands. After the activities are over, do cheap brands still want to sell at the price of luxury brands? Ningxi patted her head and looked a little helpless. Everyone said that the eldest miss was an idiot. No matter whether others believed it or not, she believed it now. Ningxi had considered Lu Xinyan's loss before, but she didn't expect it to be so serious. In the long run, it will inevitably have a negative impact on Ziling, and even affect the sales of several other physical stores, Qiao Weilan muttered. Ningxi pinched her eyebrows. Director Qiao, you're busy with the business expansion in Province H. I'll talk to Lu Xinyan in person. Hearing this, Qiao Weilan nodded, indicating that she had no objection. As for Lu Xinyan, what she was most afraid of was not that she made mistakes, but that she would not repent even if she made mistakes. Last time, she saw Ningxi talking to her in a familiar tone. It would be best if she could persuade her. Chapter 1079. History Headquarters. Dai Wei swirled the wine glass in his hand and took a sip. He said with satisfaction, "Boss, I've said it before. The brand's reputation is one thing, but how to manage it is another. So what if Ziling's designer is good? How can he be a threat to history? Now that you've seen it for yourself, you can finally relax." The marketing department said that Lu Xinyan was a serious idiot. There was no business that went through her that didn't make a loss. That Missy of the Lu Group didn't know a thing about the positioning and understanding of brands. All kinds of loss-making discounts were held almost every week. A luxury brand like Ziling was forcefully turned into a cheap brand by her. After the promotion ended, the stores were deserted. After Lu Xinyan learned from her painful experience, she started the promotion again. Ha 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 ha. Dai Wei laughed heartily at this point. Ningxi Welua was wearing a long dress. She looked out the window with a mocking smile on her lips. Heh, she thought she had recruited a powerful backer and tried to get close to Lu Conglomerate through Lu Xinyan. Now, she went for wool and came home shorn. However, she had already expected this from Lu Xinyan, so it wasn't a big deal. By the way, I came here today because I have something to ask you. Have you heard of this person? Ningxi Welua threw an Italian fashion magazine to Dai Wei. Dai Wei's eyes lit up as he stared at the fashion in the magazine. However, when he saw the blurry designer, his pupils shrank and his expression changed. Han Xiao, Dai Wei gasped. Although the picture in the magazine wasn't very clear, he could still recognize him. What, you know him? Ningxi Welua asked when she saw Dai Wei's expression. Boss, Han Xiao is an Italian Chinese. He's crazy. Dai Wei seemed to have thought of something scary as cold sweat appeared on his forehead. I studied fashion design in Italy for a period of time in my early years. This Han Xiao is very good, but he has a bad reputation. I heard that he has betrayed his master and is very temperamental. He only does things according to his own preferences. Dai Wei had only heard of Han Xiao. He was a newbie in the design field, but he was known as the Ghost Hand. However, he had long since disappeared from this line of work because Han Xiao was only interested in design for a short period of time. After his interest in it dissipated, he naturally lost interest in it. The reason why he was able to recognize Han Xiao was because he had once attended a gathering in Italy and happened to see Han Xiao in person. Through the words of a friend, he had gained some understanding of Han Xiao. That's great. I heard that this person has returned to China and is in this city. Can you help me find him? Ning Xuelua smiled. Find Han Xiao? Dai Wei's body trembled. Even if he saw Han Xiao, he still wanted to stay 8 feet away from him. Who would want to stay together with a lunatic? Boss, what do you mean? Dai Wei felt uneasy. Why did Ning Xuelua want to see Han Xiao? Could it be? The reason I'm looking for Han Xiao is naturally because I want him to help history reach a higher level. Ning Xuelua told him the truth. However, she quickly changed the topic and said, but don't worry, your position is still stable. Since he's a madman, it's enough to use him once or twice. Understood. Dai Wei smiled, stood up, and drained the wine in his glass. Chapter 1080. West City Mall. All kinds of promotions and discounts were going on in Ling's store, which made Ning Shi shake her head in disappointment. When Ning Shi walked into the store, several shop assistants were gathered together and chatting so enthusiastically that Ning Shi didn't immediately go up to greet them when she entered the door. Hello? Ning Shi frowned and asked in a low voice. Hearing that, the salespeople turned to look at Ning Shi. Sorry, we're getting off work soon. You can come back tomorrow, a good-looking and tall salesperson said. Getting off work soon means you're still here, Ning Shi said. The shop assistants were taken aback for a moment, then began to size up Ning Shi without any hesitation. Ning Shi's dress tonight was just a little plain, but it made those shopping guides roll their eyes. Miss, Ling is a high-end luxury brand. Even though we're giving a lot of discounts these days, the price of each item is still over 10,000. The tall salesperson said impatiently. In the past, those who came to Ling's store were at least rich heiresses and celebrities. Ever since the discount started, people from all walks of life came to have a look and ask about the price, which made them feel disgusted. They couldn't afford it even if they asked for the price. What else could they ask? Ning Shi ignored the salespeople and walked straight into the store. What's wrong with you? Didn't I tell you that we're closing soon? A few shop assistants quickly followed, and among them, the tall lady had a face full of impatience. Ning Shi's eyes fell on a long coat, and she put her hand on it. However, the tall woman quickly took out the coat and put it higher so that Ning Shi couldn't touch it. I'm sorry, Ling is a luxury brand. You can't try it or touch it. The tall woman glanced at Ning Shi with disgust. What's the price of this coat? Ning Shi took back her hand and asked directly. This one. The tall woman glanced at Ning Shi and said with a faint smile, this is a new style released by Ling. Even after the discount, it's still 40,000. 40,000? Ning Shi was stunned. This dress cost more than 40,000 yuan. Lu Xinyan would lose money every time she sold it. Lu Tingxiao wouldn't even recognize her if she sold 100 of them. Seeing Ning Shi frowning, the shop assistants thought that Ning Shi was frightened by the high price. They looked at each other and couldn't help sneering. You can go to other stores and have a look. Our clothes are all luxurious. They stared at Ning Shi like she was a thief. What time is it now? Is it time to get off work? Ning Shi looked at the shopping guides coldly. What does it have to do with you when we get off work? Please go somewhere else and don't come and make trouble, okay? The tall shopping guide's face was filled with impatience. Before Ning Shi could say anything else, a man and a woman walked in. The man and the woman were dressed well. The woman had a designer bag on her right shoulder, and her left hand was holding onto the handsome man in front of her. What's wrong? Are you going to close? The girl looked at the tall shopping guide and asked, Oh, Sister Lee Sun, how could I? I was waiting for Sister Lee Sun. The tall saleswoman ignored Ning Shi and quickly walked up to her with an ingratiating smile. Li Sun glanced at Ning Shi and looked her up and down. He smiled disdainfully and said, Your Zealing is also the definition of a luxury brand. Nowadays, people from all walks of life are coming in. No wonder you all want to close the door and get off work. Chapter 1081. Sister Li Sun is right. Even if Zhe Ling's discount is very high now, not everyone can afford it, especially some people. There are a lot of scumbags who specially choose luxury stores and then steal clothes when people are not paying attention, Li Sun said. The tall shopping guide said, and looked at Ning Shi casually. Sister Li Sun, the headquarters released a new style recently. The discount our boss offered is much better than the headquarters. Would you like to have a look? Several other shopping guides also came up and introduced the new clothes to Li Sun. Sure. Li Sun held the man's arm and followed the shopping guides to the front. Hey, are you okay? What are you doing here? The shopping guides came up and pushed Ningxi aside. Now, Ningxi was so angry that her lungs almost exploded. All the shopping guides in the agency stores were paid by the headquarters, so was Lu Xinyan's store. Ningxi didn't come here in vain. At least she realized a very serious problem. Zailing had only focused on building up their brand and positioning their brand, but they had neglected the training of talents. For example, for the stores they were acting as agents, whether it was the shopping guide or the store manager, they should have received professional training directly from the headquarters before they were assigned to work in the agency stores. Not to mention the loss of Lu Xinyan's agency, the experience in the store was extremely bad. She didn't care about other stores, but this kind of unprofessional shopping guide must not exist in any of Zhe Ling's agency stores. Seeing Ning Shi standing in the distance with no intention to leave, the shopping guides didn't have time to talk to her and only cared about the man and the woman. This style is not bad. What's the price after the discount? Li Sun asked. Sister Li Sun, this one's discount is not big enough. There is another one that our boss just bought from the headquarters. The tall shopping guide said and took out a beautifully packaged coat. Sister, let me tell you, our boss bought this from the headquarters for 60,000 yuan, and the discount is not small. The price after the discount is 58,000 yuan. The tall shopping guide said with a charming smile. Let me try it on. Li Sun put on the latest coat of Zhe Ling deer. Is it nice? Li Sun turned and looked at the man beside her. Well, it's not bad. It's more elegant than the 120,000 yuan one in history. The man smiled. Humph, how can a brand like Zealing compare to history? History is the real luxury brand. I can't even try their clothes. Li Sun curled his lips. But this Zealing, I can still make do with it. The man shrugged. Speaking of professional experience, Zhe Ling couldn't compare with history. The shopping guides in history were all professional. This is not bad. Wrap it for me. Li Sun took off the coat. Sister Li Sun, hold on. This coat can be cheaper. The tall shop assistant smiled mysteriously and dialed a number. Manager, the customer wants a discount on the coat of the latest style. Our new store is now making a profit at a loss. Okay, I got it. After the tall woman put down the phone, she smiled at Li Sun and said, Big sister, the discounted price is $55,000, and you gave me a discount of $3,000? You really know how to do business. Next time you come to my restaurant, I won't treat you badly. Li Sun was quite satisfied. Sis, what are you talking about? We are friends. Of course, we want to help you save money. After wrapping the coat, the shopping guide sent Li Sun and Li Sun out with smiles on their faces. Lu Xinyan's lazy voice came from the other end of the phone. I'll come to your store right now. If I don't see you in 10 minutes, you can close down tomorrow. With that, Ningxi hung up the phone without giving Lu Xinyan a chance to continue. After Ningxi hung up the phone, the shop assistants and managers were all stunned. They didn't know that Ningxi was talking to Lu Xinyan. Lu Xinyan's speed was fast. Within 10 minutes, she arrived at the store. Seeing the boss Lu Xinyan suddenly appear, the store manager and a few shop assistants hurriedly went up to greet her. What's so urgent that I have to come here so late? Can't you tell me over the phone? Lu Xinyan looked at Ningxi and complained unhappily. Chapter 1083. As soon as Lu Xinyan's voice fell, the shopping guide and manager who had been acting so domineering just now were completely dumbfounded. Their boss, Lu Xinyan, knew this woman? Lu Xinyan, where did you find these people in your store? Didn't the headquarters transfer professionals to you? Ningxi glanced at the shop assistants and store managers and asked, I recruited them. It's my own store, so of course I have to use my own people. Only then can I earn my own living. Lu Xinyan said proudly. Ningxi was choked by her logic. She took a deep breath and said, all of them. Replace them. I'll transfer new people from the headquarters as soon as possible. Everything must be done according to the rules and regulations. Ningxi's tone was extremely domineering, leaving no room for Lu Xinyan to refute. Yes, yes, yes. You're the boss, so you have the final say. But what happened? At this time, Lu Xinyan frowned. She could guess that Ningxi must have found something wrong when she visited incognito. Otherwise, she wouldn't suddenly denounce her like this. In fact, Lu Xinyan was actually feeling guilty. Although she didn't seem to lose money on the surface, she had actually lost a lot of money in private. Boss? The boss of the headquarters. At this moment, the shop assistants couldn't believe it. This woman in ordinary clothes turned out to be the founder of Zealing brand, the boss of the headquarters. The pretty shop assistants panicked. They didn't expect that the boss would suddenly appear in the agency store. The store manager only felt that Ningxi looked familiar. He must have seen her in the headquarters, but he didn't recognize that she was the founder of Zealing brand. Seeing Lu Tingxiao's attitude was not bad, Ningxi's tone softened. And cancel all the discounts in your store. Go to the headquarters tomorrow to ask Director Qiao for advice. Director Qiao will tell you how to run the agency store. Cancel all of them? I've racked my brains to come up with this promotion method. Lu Xinyan said unhappily. Ningxi put on a fake smile and said, My dear miss, are you trying so hard to make your brother not recognize you? Lu Xinyan's face stiffened. You know. Damn it. She was found out. Within 3 days, I want to see you strictly follow the plan and carry out the rules and regulations. Otherwise, it's useless even if you call me grandma. After saying that, Ningxi didn't even look at the shop assistants or the manager and turned to leave Zeiling agency store. Seeing Ningxi's attitude towards Lu Xinyan, the shop assistants looked at each other and almost peed their pants. After all, she was Lu Tingxiao's cousin. But Ningxi dared to shout at her. This woman. Just what was her background? What the hell is going on? After Ningxi left, Lu Xinyan glared fiercely at the store manager and the shop assistants, full of anger. Boss. I don't know. When I came, Big Boss seemed to be angry. It must be their doing. The store manager had pushed all the blame away. In desperation, one of the shop assistants could only tell the truth. After learning the ins and outs of the story, Lu Xinyan fired everyone, including the store manager, on the spot. Chapter 1084. After leaving Lu Xinyan's shop, Ningxi massaged her aching temples and looked helpless. Out of the 6 representative stores, only Lu Xinyan's store was so smart. With such a shopping guide and manager, coupled with such a stupid boss, it would definitely close down after a long time. Fortunately, they discovered it early. Bang. Just as Ningxi was pondering, a figure suddenly flashed in front of her and hit her with an indescribable force, almost knocking her over. Sorry, girl. Are you all right? The black figure paused and stopped, reaching out to support Ning Shi. Ning Shi shook her head. I'm fine. Oh, girl, you are quite agile. Have you practiced martial arts? The man looked at her up and down with interest. Hearing this, Ning Shi couldn't help but roll her eyes. Where on earth did this guy come from? Haha, it's good that you're all right. I'm going to run for my life. The man slightly raised the corner of his mouth and looked back with a trace of a playful smile. Run for your life? Ning Shi tilted her head and slightly raised her eyebrows. Before Ning Shi could continue, there was a burst of noise behind. Looking carefully, there were at least dozens of people running towards here. Are they your enemies? Ning Shi couldn't help but click her tongue. Who was this guy? Being chased by dozens of people in the middle of the night. Huh. The man laughed carelessly. I don't know them, but I saw two of them were good at martial arts. They couldn't win after fighting for a long time, so I couldn't help but beat them up. Who knew they had guns? Gee, no matter how good I am, I can't be faster than bullets. Oh, you're really good at bragging. Why didn't they beat you to death? Ning Shi was completely defeated by the shameless spirit of this man in front of her. He obviously offended someone and was being chased by dozens of people, but he still insisted on being brave. Also, they were having a good time fighting. So why did he run over and interfere? Wasn't he asking for a beating? Goodbye, girl. I have to go. The man was just about to escape, but was caught by Ning Shi. Come with me. Then Ning Shi grabbed the man and forced him to the bottom of an SUV not far away. What are you doing? The man was a little confused. Ning Shi looked at him with a smile. You're lucky. I happen to like your shameless spirit, as well as everything that interested her. This man just happened to have it. Ning Shi didn't bother to talk to him. She stood in front of the car and blocked the man's view. In just a moment, dozens of people had caught up with them. Eldest brother? Ning Shi's eyes widened in disbelief when she saw the familiar face of the man chasing her and the cold gold-rimmed glasses on his face. The man in the lead was actually Tang Yi. What shocked her even more was that not only Tang Yi, but Tang Lang was also here. How did these two get together? Junior sister, what are you doing here? Tang Lang asked while gasping for breath. Second senior brother? I should be the one asking you. What are you doing? Why are you with eldest senior brother? Ning Shi was completely stunned. Could it be that the man under the car was being chased by Tang Yi and Tang Lang? It can't be, right? Who the hell was that guy? How could he make Tang Yi and Tang Lang join hands? No. Just now, the guy under the car said that he saw two people fighting, and because he saw that they couldn't decide the winner, he wanted to beat up both of them. Could it be that the two people who were fighting just now were eldest senior brother and second senior brother? Chapter 1085. Little junior sister, did you see a lunatic? Tang Yi stared at Ning Shi coldly and asked. Ning Shi wasn't stupid. She knew that the lunatic Tang Yi was talking about was definitely the one under the carriage. After a fierce mental struggle, Ning Shi finally nodded. Where? Following Ning Shi's nod, Tang Yi and Tang Lang's eyes narrowed at the same time, their eyes filled with vigilance. Right here. Ning Shi stared at Tang Lang and Tang Yi. Where? Tang Yi looked around. Two lunatics, standing right in front of me. Ning Shi's face was full of seriousness. Fuck. Stupid girl. I'm asking you something serious. Tang Lang understood. Go back quickly, it's not safe here. Tang Yi said expressionlessly. She was really getting more and more curious. What was the background of the man under the carriage? How could he make eldest senior brother afraid? Second senior brother. What exactly happened? Ning Shi anxiously asked. Just now, I was loving and playing with your eldest senior brother. Suddenly a lunatic came and insisted on giving us pointers and even fought with us. Mentioning this, Tang Lang couldn't help but get angry. Loving and playing with each other. What the hell was this? Ning Shi's face darkened. And then, you guys lost? Were those two really Tang Lang and Tang Yi? Ning Shi was completely stunned. Tang Yi lost? Tang Lang lost? Tang Yi and Tang Lang working together? Lost? Cough cough. Tang Lang's expression was a little unnatural and awkward. He immediately slapped Ningxi's head. Nonsense. Your eldest senior brother lost, but second senior brother didn't. Logic. I understand. But why did you bring so many people? Ningxi looked at the dozens of people behind Tang Lang. If he could win, why did he bring so many people? That's to make it easier to search for people. Forget it. I'm not talking to you anymore. Tang Lang realized that this girl was seriously tearing down his words. Let's go. Seeing that he lost them, Tang Yi didn't even look at Tang Lang and directly turned to leave. Fuck. Why are you leaving? We haven't finished fighting yet. You still haven't returned my little caca to me. Tang Lang roared from behind. Ningxi clicked her tongue. Second senior brother, if you don't work harder, I'm afraid eldest senior brother won't play with you anymore. Because I seem to have found an even more fun toy. When Tang Lang thought of that madman from before, his face immediately darkened. Go to the side. I can instantly kill him with just a casual practice. Seeing that Tang Yi and Tang Lang had completely left, Ningxi was almost drowned by curiosity. What was the background of the man under the carriage? Ningxi understood Tang Yi and Tang Lang the best. There was no need to talk about their martial prowess. Even when the two of them joined forces, they were still beaten by that lunatic. Just as Ningxi was deep in thought, a powerful palm casually rested on her right shoulder. Ningxi was startled. She retreated swiftly and swept her leg out in an instant. However, what surprised Ningxi was that her instinctive kick actually missed. She could only see a black shadow moving rapidly in front of her, as though it was not a human's speed at all. If Ningxi was in the forest now, she would definitely think that it was a wild beast. Miss, you have indeed trained before. The man easily dodged Ningxi's kick. Unknowingly, he was standing in front of Ningxi again. Ningxi subconsciously retreated. Her instincts told her that this man was extremely dangerous. Extremely. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.